This is James Taylor, and you're listening to The Creative Life. The Creative Life podcast is a show created for you, the creative. If you're looking for inspiration, motivation, and advice while at home, at work, or on your daily commute, then this show is for you. Each episode brings you a successful creative, whether that's a musician, writer, artist, designer, performer, educator, or creative entrepreneur. They share their journey, their successes, their failures, their creative process, their insights, and much, much more. This episode is sponsored by C-School, the online school for creativity training. If you'd like to unleash your creative potential and access a free Creativity Blueprint training series, then just head over to c.school. That's www.c.school for your free training series. In today's episode, I speak with Marina Barayeva. We talk about the keys to successful photo shoots, style guides, and creative communities in China. Enjoy this session. Hey there, it's James Taylor, and I'm delighted today to welcome onto the show Marina Barayeva. Marina is an international portrait photographer based in Beijing, China. In 2017, she started the Marketing for Creatives podcast, a show where she brings photographers and other creatives together to share their knowledge on marketing. Always busy with creative projects, she organized and hosted an online conference, Lady Photographer, a charity fashion show called New Year Queen, and was a part of the art project for Beijing Design Week. And it's my great pleasure to have Marina with us on the show today. So welcome, Marina.
Hi, James. It's so good to be on your show, and I'm delighted to serve your audience today.
So share with everyone what's going on in your world just now, what you're currently working on.
Well, I'm working on my photography business and working on the podcast, which I'm hosting once a week. And I interview different creative people, marketers, speakers, all of those people who can bring value to creative industry, who can teach people how to market and grow their business. Because I'm a photographer too, and I know how tough it is for people to sell their work, to market, because we love to create. And to go there into the world and say, buy my work, it doesn't work. So I want to help people to enjoy their work and grow their businesses.
And you've had some great guests. I think as we're recording this, I think you're up to nearly episode 60 on your podcast. You've had Tamsin Webster, I think Neen James, Jeffrey Shaw, Brian Fans, there's some good friends of mine as well. When after you're coming up, you've interviewed all these great creative leaders, specifically about how they market what they do. Any big takeaways, any big kind of patterns that you've seen that you thought, they all kind of do this, or they all think about marketing in this kind of way? What have you discovered?
Every time I reach someone, I look through their work and I make sure that they're really into what they're talking about. And I just ask them questions that people ask me as a photographer or when I talk to other creatives. And they really passionate about their work. They really know what they're doing and they want to help other people. So it's so exciting. Even me, after each episode, I learn something. And I share with my community and I get a good feedback from people that, oh, I didn't know that. Or I got a new client. Wow, I got the new job. And it's so exciting.
And where did your passion for photography start? Where did it all begin for you?
Oh, a long time ago. I was a model, actually. That was my hobby. I was doing my stuff. I had a corporate job and I quit it in 2008. And then I was doing some web design thing. But modeling always was my hobby. And then have you heard about time for print? It's like when you get together creative people and they do the photo shoot. So nobody get paid, but you get pictures and it's like you're updating your portfolio. After one of these photo shoots, the photographer shot 700 pictures of me. And when I saw them, I picked 10. And only 2 of them I could use in my work. Because a lot of them, it's just like the wrong angle or they were, I don't know, I did not like them. But I knew how to make this work better. It's just like a little move. If he would give me some guidelines, some directions, that will be a beautiful shot. So I thought to myself, I'm going to do it by myself. I know how to do it much better. And because I was behind of the camera or in front of the camera, I know how how it is to be behind, and I can help other people. I can direct. I know what they feel, how nervous they are there.
It's funny. I was reading some work that you did earlier where you were just talking about this. A lot of time people they'll go into a photo shoot and it's almost like a maxed out version of them. It's kind of not them. It's almost like they've created a persona, and obviously that works for certain types of people and certain things. But one of the things that the kind of work that you do is interesting. Is I've seen people say it's actually brought out something in them that was really there all along, but it just reflected it in a slightly different way. So you weren't like creating a fake kind of person. It was really the person that was there, and maybe that person didn't even think that, when they saw the photographs of themselves, they said, that's me. That's me in that shot. So was that something you've always been able to do, to really find that person in there?
No, before, when I studied my photography, I tried to take pictures. They were good. But I had my photographer friend who looked at my work and he said, you know what? It's good, but you're always looking for acceptance of your work. It's not just about the person. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? But it touched me a lot because he knows his work. He has a business. And for a couple of years, I could not understand what's going on. And I still try to improve my work, try to find the perfect light, do a lot of Photoshop, do magazine type of retouching. And there was one day I photographed a woman, and I know that she didn't feel comfortable. And she has some, problem with her skin. She's beautiful, but it's not like those models which you see on the magazine, right? And I photographed her. And after that, she looked at her photos and she was almost crying. She was like, I've never saw myself this way. It still looked like me, but it just kind of different me. And it so much touched me because I finally understood that it's not about the perfect picture. It's not like someone may want to have the art portrait, but a lot of people just do want to see themselves. They ask their friend to take the photo, and more likely their friend will take the ugly photo. And after that, people say like, no, I don't like to be photographed. I don't want to be photographed. They're so afraid of that. But I help them to look at themselves in a different way. Still there, but it's just a beautiful version of you. It's another look of you, which you probably never saw in your life, which other people see, but not you.
Now, I know we have a lot of listeners listen to this show who are musicians, or they're speakers, or they have some kind of public persona, and they have to, maybe once a year, they go and get a new photo shoot, whether it's headshots or publicity shots that they're getting done. Are there any tips for anyone that's listening just now and they know, okay, I need to go and get some new shots done, I need to find a photographer, but are there any kind of good rules of thumb that when that person is starting to think about finding a photographer and having those first conversations with possible photographers, what they should be asking?
Mm-hmm. Every time when you want to do the photo shoot, whether you want to do it for yourself, James, or your listeners, you need to think, why do you want to do them? Even if you're a professional and you want to have, for example, if you're a musician, you want to have the cover for your album, that's going to be more artistic shot. If you want just update your social media profiles, they're going to be probably the headshot. I wouldn't recommend to put their like half body shots or 3/4, because the social media is about you as a person, and it's important for people to see your face clearly. And if, for example, you're maybe a speaker, book author, or you have a different experience with media, you give the interviews, I would suggest to have the lifestyle photos or like 3/4 photos. It's good if you think about all of these possibilities where you want to use your portraits. So when you come to the photographer, you already have your ideas. Okay, I want to update my social media profile. I want to have some pictures for my media kit, and maybe I want to have something for my album cover. And then when you will be on the photo shoot, it's A lot depends on the photographer's skills, but not every photographer can bring your emotions. I know how you can be nervous in front of the camera, but when you come to the photo shoot, search on Google or anywhere the pictures that you like and look at their expression, their emotions. When you do the photo shoot, come up with some ideas, like the look you want to have, the confidence. Like, I sometimes when I photograph guys, it's funny, I ask them, like, who is your ideal person? They may say, like, oh, I'm Putin, the Russian president. I'm Putin, or I don't know, someone else. I'm Brad Pitt. Just to bring this confidence in yourself, so people will see it in your picture. And when you look at the camera, don't think about the camera. Think about the person or someone who you look at. Just imagine that there is a person in front of you, not the camera lens. In that case, you will find the emotions. You can capture the emotion in your eyes. And this is very important when you create photos for your social media. Because what often I see is that photos are just blank. You can have the nice headshot of you, but there's no any emotions there. And it doesn't get your readers or your followers' attention. You have only a few seconds to get these eye connections, emotions, to show your personality. And then people will scroll through your bio, through your expertise, whatever skill you have. It's all combined together.
I think one of the guests you had on your show was John DeMato, a photographer from New York, and John and I did a photo shoot together. A great photographer, and he primarily focuses on photographing thought leaders and speakers and authors. And one of the things I thought was very interesting spending time with him, well, first of all, was the quantity of usable shots that you got at the end. As you said, sometimes you go photo shoots, probably will be on them, and at the end of it, you only maybe have 2 usable photos. I think I got 150 usable photos from his photo shoot.
But you got lucky.
He was great. And one of the things, he had that same discussion with me before we got together, where he said, okay, what are the uses and so we kind of went through the different uses, and he started kind of mapping out in his head, really, okay, well, we'll do these shots here, we'll do these, and he kind of choosing different locations. Obviously, one of the big challenges he said sometimes is when difference between working with men and women, where guys, it's, you have a couple of changes of clothes, you may do a bit of hair, makeup, but nothing extreme. But I'm guessing you get brought in a lot to work with a lot of like female thought leaders as well. Do you usually kind of bring in a stylist or a hair makeup person as well for those?
I usually have a makeup artist and hairstylist, or sometimes I do by myself because I've been in this industry for a very, very long time. And I usually, before the photo shoot, especially for women, with you guys are much easier. Bring a few suits, shirts, t-shirts. But for the girls, I usually send a style guide. So I give them the examples of clothes they can bring. And sometimes they think like, oh, I want to have the professional photo shoot, so I'm going to be just in suit. I'm like, no, bring probably a dress, bring maybe a few shirts, I don't know, jeans, and something casual, something official, because you don't know what you will choose. And it depends if the photographer is going to give you the whole pictures or you're going to just pick some of them. So you need to know that, and you need to plan. And it's better if you have, for example, the like more business look and more casual look. So depending on where you're going to use them, you may want to have the more casual for some magazine publications and more official for your public speaking or your social media.
Now, you made a big transition in your life, being based in Russia and then moving to Beijing in China. I'm interested, probably we've all thought about it, and some of us have done this as well. We've gone and lived in completely different countries, completely different places. And if you move there when you don't know anyone, there's that kind of adjustment that you have to make about trying to connect with other creative people in that place. So when you moved into Beijing in China, what did you do in order to be able to kind of plug into a creative community there?
China, and this is what happened when I moved here, it's completely different world. If you go to Europe, you go to US, you go to South America, it's quite similar. You still see European people and the culture is more likely similar. But when you go to China, it's like another world. It's completely different. You need to adjust to new social media stuff. You need to adjust to different community. You need to speak different language. When I got to Beijing, I thought everyone speak English here because everything is made in China. They should speak English, but they don't. You walk down the street, and that time, my first time, I rented an apartment in Chinese area. And I was so hungry because everything was in Chinese and I didn't know what to eat. Yeah. But living here for a while, you're just exploring everything and you get to know more foreigners. You find out that Beijing foreign community is very small. If you live here for a while, you just know main people who live here. And then a lot of people just come and leave, but still. And when you know people who live here, they are more friendly. It's, for example, if I go to US and I'm new in the city, people are helpful, but it very depends on the personality. When I come to Beijing as a foreigner, people here know how hard it is to adjust to new culture, to find a new place here, to, I don't know, start your work here. So people are more willing to help you and support you in kind of way.
But that's great that I know you've now got very kind of hooked into that community. I'm always interested in Beijing, having only been to Beijing once, we've been to Shanghai quite a few number of times. Beijing seems to have quite a strong visual creative community. A lot of great visual artists seem to be in Beijing. I'm not quite sure why that is. Why you have somebody, it seems to be more so than places like Hong Kong, and even like Shanghai felt more commercial, but Beijing there was kind of more edgy creative work seemed to be going on in Beijing.
It's a cultural capital. It's not just a capital of the country, but there's a lot of cultural thing, and even the center, the government do not allow to destroy old buildings that they want to keep the part of the culture. And there are a lot of artistic communities. Some of them modern art, which I don't understand, but people like it a lot. And like even all Chinese people, they kind of into that. We have the wonderful shopping mall there. If you ever get to Beijing, you just need to get to Parkview Green. You go there and it's like a gallery. And there are different exponents from big galleries. They have the exhibitions there. And I don't know why. In China there's so many good, like the different taste of art and different collections here. That people like it here.
Now, on your creative journey, can you tell us about a time when you worked on a creative project, you gave it your heart and your soul, but for whatever reason, it just didn't work out like you'd hoped? And more importantly, what were the lessons that you took from that experience?
Oh, my biggest, worst moment. When I started my photography, in a few years, I decided to open my photography school, the online photography school. And then when you try to, create your product, you want to sell your stuff. And I was in China. I recorded my first ever online course. And when I was here, the internet was slow. All major social media are blocked here. So you need to figure out stuff somehow. So it was a lot of work. It took me 3 months to create everything. And then when everything was ready, I reached out to several people to help me to promote it. So it won't be just my community, but some people too. And we set everything in 1 week before I launched that course. Another photographer, launched almost the same course like I did. I was like, how come 80% of his content was like mine? I don't know how it happened. I've never met this person. in life. I knew about him from his website and other online stuff, but it was just like so close to my content. And in a week when I launched my course, I got only a few sales. I was so destroyed. I was in a big depression for a month because it's a lot of work. And sometimes I wanted to crash my computer. But the huge lesson I learned that time, don't try to make everything perfect. Because when you try to polish stuff, other people doing also their work. And they may launch either the same thing or maybe similar, or you're just losing your time. Go as you can. Even with the podcast, I apply it everywhere now. I try to not polish, like I set everything on the good level. I'm not the native English speaker. So when I was about to start my podcast, I was so nervous because I know I have a little accent and sometimes I make mistakes when I speak. But I'm like, I'm going to make it. And I started reaching people and people were so helpful. It improved my English. And sometimes I posted the episodes, my first few episodes, and I made mistakes in the title. And even my guests reached me out right after publishing and they told me, you better put it this way. And I was so grateful for that because I just try to tell people that you don't need to be perfect. You just need to go and people will help and you will know where you made a mistake and you will see that and you will fix and you will learn and then you will make everything better. You will improve with every step you take on your journey, whatever work you do.
I think it's that Facebook quote, which is it move fast and break things. And sometimes you have to move. And I think it's great, testament, you not being a native speaker, kind of going out there and kind of creating that podcast. And what I would say is, I was talking recently to Sylvie De Giusto, who's a German-born speaker, lives in New York. And she actually said a lot of people come up to her now after hearing her speak. And because she speaks, but she English isn't her native language, her first language. And so she speaks with quite a strong accent that she has. But people say they really enjoy listening to her because she doesn't use so many flowery words and she gets straight to the point when she says something. And people really like that. And also I heard a stat the other day. I had a guest on Heather Hansen on one of my summits who was saying that something like 95% of business conversations now are happening between people where English isn't their native language. And so if these conversations are happening in English, but 95% of those conversations are happening with people that one of them or both of them, that's not their native language. So I commend you for having done this as well, because I know that's a huge amount of work to do. But you're putting that work out, which is fantastic.
Mm-hmm. And the advice to your listeners, don't let all of the small things stop you from doing things. If people want to hear you, they want to know your skills, your stuff, they want to learn from you, they will stay with you. It doesn't matter what language you speak. And you know what's funny? I live in Beijing and a lot of people speak here like two or three languages. I speak 4. My Spanish is in the beginner level, but still I can handle some conversations. But when I talk to American people and I ask them, okay, my English is not perfect, but how many languages do you speak? They say, almost everyone say the same thing. Huh, what do you mean? I'm American. I speak English. That's it.
And there is a danger with that, because if you only ever speak English as your first language, when you go and if for example, if you're a speaker and you go and travel and you speak in other countries and other cultures, there's certain words that native English speakers, especially if you're speaking in Asia, we won't pronounce as strong, like the T's, for example, on words, or will trail off a little bit at the end of sentences. And if someone's listening and then English isn't their first language, that can be quite difficult to be able to hear. So even if I was speaking to someone the other day and he said often what he'll try and do when he's going to a new country, even if he doesn't speak the language of that place, he will listen to online radio from that place, of talk radio, so he can get his ear tuned into the, each language has its ways of going. I mean, Chinese it has lots of different inflections. There's much more complicated than English in that way as well. So I think it's great what you're doing there. So you mentioned having that kind of light bulb moment in your career where you really were able to help bring something out of someone they didn't necessarily think was there and reflect that back to them. Are there any other kind of key insights or light bulb moments, those aha moments that you've had in your life and your creative journey?
I think that one was one of the biggest because it just crafted my next business. Because my friend told me, when you will find how to give experience to people, you'll make a business. Until that time, when I was polishing my craft, I made some money, but it was just, like small gigs. But when I talked to that woman who experienced that, I made her feel beautiful. I'm like, wow. And now it's just, I put everything in, it's just the foundation of my business. Like I talk about experience more than the pictures. I show the pictures, but I also tell people that I'll show you the better versions of you. It still will be you. And especially in China, when it's so funny, Chinese people like to do over Photoshop photos. And sometimes they look completely different. I had a client who texted me on social media and she's like, oh, I want to do Photoshoot. I'm like, okay. And she sent me the photos like, I've done it before and this is me and I want something different. I'm like, fine. We set the date for the Photoshoot. And she came there and I'm like looking for her. Can I find her? And she called my name and I turned around and I'm like, what? You're 3 sizes more than on your photo, and your face is square, and it's completely not you. Because her photos was over Photoshop. And when people come to me and ask, like, are you going to Photoshop it? I'm like, I will Photoshop it, but you will not notice. It will be beautiful picture, that will be beautiful portrait of you, which will reflect your confidence, that will show your beauty, and all these things. And this is what catch people attention. And then I rebranding my photography, I raised my prices, and it's just like I put the emotions and what people get now in everything I do. I look for how people feel about the work, or like in the podcast, what people get from that. It's not about me polishing my craft and making the podcast perfect, but what the audience will get out of that, or whatever business you'll make, what another person will gain from that. They don't care about your business. They don't care about how you do their things, but they really want to make themselves feel beautiful, feel confident, get more money for them if they are professionals and looking for a new headshot, if they are speakers and if they want to represent themselves. It's all about that.
Now, I noticed on your website and also your headshot, I'm looking at one of your headshots just now, and we share something in common in that in terms of our branding, our visual branding, we both use color red a lot. And so you have it on your website. I use red in certain points, and I use it on my photography quite a bit, and I'll use it little on ties and things as well. Does that make when you're doing photo shoots, especially in China, are there certain colors that you're quite conscious of using more of than others?
It's more about the style I shoot, because I photograph fashion style portraits, and this is my slogan. I make you look like you just stepped out of the magazine. It's not about the colors, because you will bring different colors. It doesn't mean that you're going to bring more red or blue, whatever, but I'll help you to tell you that you look James, handsome, or woman will come to me, she will look beautiful. Because sometimes people have a lot of clothes, but they do not really match them properly. This is surprising me.
Yeah. So it's like when you said at the start that you kind of put a style guide together for them.
Mm-hmm.
And ensuring that the clothing that they're bringing there is obviously going to show them in the best light. It's going to complement them as well.
Exactly. Usually I tell them bring a little more, so we will pick, and I'll help you to pick the right one for the specific shoot you want to have.
Now, do you have any online resources or tools or mobile apps like Evernote, for example, that you use a lot, you find really is helpful in the creative work that you do?
Well, Evernote is my to-go tool. It's like I have everything. I put notes there. I have some messages when clients reach me out. I can just copy paste, because when you work in the business for a long time, you know that clients ask you the same questions. And before you get them on the call or meet in person, you send them similar information. And I like to sync it with Trello. So I use Evernote for my notes, and I use Trello for organizing, for templates, for my calendar notes, and everything.
Great. We'll put those links down here as well. We're big fans here of Trello with our podcast. We use Trello a lot for that as well. What about a book? If you'd recommend one book to our listeners and also one record or one album to our listeners, what would they be?
For the book for all creatives, especially those who are not confident in selling their work, I would recommend to get the Brian Tracy's book, The Art of Closing the Sale. It's a fantastic book. He tell you how to sell without being pushy, will be confident in selling your work. He gives some examples there. Just go and check it. It's brilliant.
And what about the album? If there's one record or album that you would suggest, it could be an artist that you love playing when you're doing your photo shoots, or someone that just kind of helps you get into your kind of creative flow. What would that artist be?
That's the hardest question you asked me for today, because I'm a dancer. This is my hobby. I like dancing. So all of my music is either bachata, salsa, kizomba, or any of them. Anything related.
So is there a particular salsa artist that you like?
Bachata. Prince Royce.
Great. And we'll put those links there as well. So if someone's watching this just now, want to do some salsa dancing this evening, then you've got that link and you can go and check that out as well. So I want you to imagine, Marina, tomorrow morning you wake up. You can wake up at any city in the world, in Beijing, wherever you'd like to wake up, but you have to start from scratch. So you've got all the tools of your trade, all the knowledge that you've acquired over the years, but no one knows you and you know no one. You have to restart. What would you do? How would you restart?
You know, James, it's not what I would do, but what I've done a lot of times, because I traveled so much and I started all over so many times. The business didn't work, or I just moved to another country for a couple of months. And every time when I come to the new place, I look for the communities where my audience hang out. And I go there, I can have a chance to show my work. But more important, I try to get connected with the people who organize that, or the business owners who work with my audience. And I am looking for the ways, how can we work together? How can we collaborate together? So I will bring value to them, and maybe they will bring me to their community. And the one interesting exercise from Brian Tracy's book, which I mentioned before, he said whenever he starts the new job, he gives himself a task. Look for 100 people to tell about your product or service. Don't think about the sale, but think about those. How can you find those people, whether on the call, whether you go in the meetings, and you need to talk to 100 people. Because sometimes people say, oh, I don't have sales. It's not about maybe your business bad or your product or service is bad, but it's just not enough people know about you. And the difference between if you go and sell to those 100 people, or you will go and tell about your product or service, is when you focus on selling, people will have the sense that you try to sell them something, and more likely they will not buy from you. When you try to tell about the service or product you offer to them, you think about the ways how you will bring value to them, how to show what you can do for them. And this is about the benefit of both sides, and more about what you can do for the person. So they will think like, he really cares about me. He doesn't want to sell me right away, but he think about what I may need. That way you'll get more sales.
Well, Marina, you've added a lot of value to everyone today in this interview. So thank you so much for coming on. What's the best way, if people want to connect with you, learn about the podcast, where should they go to find out about that?
Well, my website is intnetworkplus.com, It's intnetworkplus.com, and there's the podcast Marketing for Creatives. You can simply search on iTunes, and I'm everywhere on social media as Marina Barayeva, MarinaBarayeva. So feel free to reach me out, and on Instagram we usually have the conversations about the podcast, business stuff, and just send me a message.
Well, Marina Barayeva, thank you so much for sharing with us all about your creative life. It's been a pleasure having you on the show today.
Thank you, James. It was my pleasure to serve your audience today.
Hey, James Taylor here again. And if you're interested in living a more creative life, then I'd love to invite you to join me as I share some of the most successful strategies and techniques that high-performing creatives use. I put them all together in a free downloadable ebook that you can get by going to jamestaylor.me. That's jamestaylor.me to get your free downloadable ebook on creativity.